This is the Security Nexus Deep Dive. The Security Nexus is a Maryland-based national security consultancy, and we specialize in strategic advisory, education, and public engagement. Through our podcasts, blogs, training, and consulting, we really try to provide insight into this evolving landscape of cyber threats, hybrid warfare, and strategic security policy. Our whole mission is to inform, educate, and empower both professionals and the public with clear, accessible, and actionable knowledge.
For a very long time, U.S. strategy has been built on a pretty comfortable assumption that Latin America is a secure rear area, basically its own backyard. While that idea is now dangerously out of date, China isn't just approaching the Western Hemisphere, it's already here, operating a sophisticated, multi-layered intelligence network right on the U.S. southern flank. And the key thing to understand is, this isn't some plan for the future, it's fully operational right now.
So what does this intelligence architecture actually look like? In this explainer, we're going to break it all down. We'll start by seeing it as a layered system, then we'll look at the powerful legal framework that makes it all possible. After that, we'll explore three concrete pillars: signals intelligence, dual-use space infrastructure, and strategic logistics. And finally, we'll pull it all together to see what this new strategic reality really means.
Okay, first things first, it is absolutely crucial to understand that we can't look at China's activities as just a collection of separate, unrelated projects. A port here, a space station over there, a new telecom contract. These aren't just standalone commercial deals. They are all components of a much bigger puzzle, specifically designed to work together as one, single, integrated system for gathering intelligence and giving Beijing a real strategic foothold.
So what are these components? Well, the key pillars of this system are distinct, but they're meant to be complementary. You've got signals intelligence, or SIGINT, sites for electronic eavesdropping. You've got space infrastructure for tracking satellites and supporting military ops. You've got control over commercial ports, which double as logistics hubs and massive data collection points. And of course, you have the telecommunications networks tying it all together, the digital nervous system of our world. Each part is valuable on its own, but when you connect them, you get a powerful multi-domain intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, or ISR architecture.
Now that we see the different parts, you might be wondering, how does China get all these different pieces to work together so seamlessly? I mean, how do they blend what look like civilian projects with state intelligence goals? The answer lies in a national strategy called civil-military fusion. See, in the West, we tend to think there's a pretty clear line between private companies and the government's military and intelligence agencies. This doctrine completely erases that line.
And this isn't just an idea, it's baked into law. China's 2017 National Intelligence Law is crystal clear. It legally requires any Chinese organization or citizen, no matter where they are in the world, to cooperate with state intelligence efforts if they're asked. So what does this mean in practice? It means every Chinese company, from a shipping giant like Costco to a tech leader like Huawei, is legally obligated to function as an intelligence asset for the state. There's no firewall.
So with that legal framework in mind, let's look at our first real-world example, signals intelligence in Cuba. When it comes to collecting intelligence in the Western Hemisphere, Cuba is, without a doubt, China's most important and strategically valuable location.
For intelligence, it's all about location, location, location. And Cuba sits less than 100 miles from the Florida coast. I mean, that's practically a stone's throw. This gives China a front-row seat to monitor some of the most sensitive U.S. assets on the planet. We're talking major military bases, the headquarters of U.S. Southern Command, critical space launch sites, and top-secret military testing ranges. From Beijing's perspective, this is an intelligence goldmine that they just couldn't get anywhere else.
Satellite imagery has pinpointed at least 4 likely collection sites across Cuba: Bajucal, Huasha, Calabazar, and a newer one called El Salao. And these aren't just dusty relics from the Cold War, they've been seriously upgraded with new tech. And here is where that civil-military fusion concept gets very real. U.S. intelligence has reportedly tracked personnel from Huawei NZTE, the very companies building Cuba's telecom network, moving in and out of these suspected spy stations. It strongly suggests a direct link between China's commercial tech firms and its intelligence operations.
All right, so we've seen how China is using Cuba for signals intelligence. Now let's move on to another key piece of their strategy: dual-use infrastructure. And for this, we'll focus on China's space network in Argentina, which is a perfect example of where civilian science projects also serve hard military purposes.
This is the Nukind Deep Space Station in Argentina. Now, it might look like a single facility, but it's a critical piece of a much larger network. In fact, the U.S. government has identified at least 11 Chinese-linked space facilities across Latin America.
They are often sold to the public as civilian projects for things like lunar exploration, but their dual purpose is pretty clear: to gather intelligence and improve the Chinese military's ability to fight and win wars.
And this slide really says it all. This is the very definition of dual use. Officially, on paper, it's a civilian research station for exploring deep space. But who's actually running the place? Operational control falls to the China Satellite Launch and Tracking Control Center, which is a direct operational arm of the People's Liberation Army. So, despite the civilian cover story, it's the PLA running the show.
The U.S. ambassador to Argentina, Mark Stanley, did not mince words about this. He pointed out that the biggest problem is the complete lack of host nation oversight. Argentinian authorities have little to no access or control over what happens there. This allows the PLA to conduct secret military operations, and some experts believe this includes using the station to track things like advanced hypersonic vehicles. This isn't just passive observation. It's a capability that gives China a significant military edge.
Okay, so we've got signals intelligence and space infrastructure. Now let's turn to our third and final piece of this puzzle, an area that often gets overlooked: strategic logistics. Control over commercial infrastructure like ports can provide enormous strategic leverage, and we're seeing this play out perfectly with the new port of Chencai in Peru.
The port of Chencai is a massive, brand-new deep-water port on the Pacific coast of South America. But here's the most important fact you need to know. It's controlled by a Chinese state-owned company called COSCO, and the Peruvian government has almost no meaningful say in how it's actually run.
So how did this happen? Well, COSCO owns a 60% majority stake and was granted exclusive operational control. When the Peruvian government tried to assert oversight through its own regulatory body, Beijing reportedly threatened to scrap the entire project. So, under immense pressure, Peru's government caved and actually changed its own laws, stripping its regulators of any authority over the port. The result? A strategic asset, controlled by a company tied to the Chinese state, that could easily serve as a wartime resupply and logistics hub for the PLA Navy.
So what does this all mean when you put it all together? Well, when you stop looking at these as separate projects and see them for what they really are, an interconnected system, a new strategic reality comes into sharp focus. China has successfully built a sophisticated and mature intelligence and access network right on the southern border of the United States.
Think about it. The SIGINT facilities in Cuba provide the electronic ears. This sprawling network of space ground stations provides the eyes in orbit, tracking assets and enabling advanced weapons. And ports like Chencai provide the logistical hands and a continuous fire hose of data. They are all linked by that same doctrine of military-civil fusion and the same legal mandate to serve the Chinese state. It's a comprehensive architecture for intelligence and strategic access.
You see, this presence fundamentally alters the security landscape for the United States. It could mean shorter warning times in a crisis, increased vulnerability for critical military and civilian assets, and a direct challenge to U.S. influence in its own neighborhood. That old assumption of a secure rear area? It's gone. And that leaves us with the critical question we all need to consider. What are the full strategic implications of a peer competitor operating this kind of network so close to home?
To learn more and explore our analyses, be sure to visit thesecuritynexus.net.